Welcome to PvE. I'm Benjamin, aka Hexno.
And I'm Andrew, aka Ferglyman, and we're going to be talking about the PlayStation Plus free games for the month of July.
First up, we've got Extreme Exorcism. It's available for the PS3 and also for the PS4. I'll just say, I had a lot of fun just on my own playing this one.
It's a lot of fun. I actually played a little bit local, because you can do the local co-op, which was also a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a really interesting concept. Just to kind of explain how it works, you've got your character and you kind of start out the level. There's different little spots around the level that you can pick up weapons. It's, 2D platformer, just to explain that part.
Yeah.
But there's the little weapons around. You pick up those. You'll see this like haunted chair that you go find it, kill it, and then you'll respawn and a ghost will spawn that will do exactly what you just did. So that just keeps going over and over again, and you just try to survive as an infinite number of ghosts start following what you did.
It was really interesting for me because I happened to be focused on what I was doing and not paying attention to the text tooltip when it was like, oh, when you kill the ghost and respawn, the next ghost will do the same thing you just did. I wasn't paying attention to that, so
Right.
I was just like trying so hard to do this thing, and then finally I started seeing patterns, and I was like, wait, it looks like it's doing the same thing I did that last time. And so then I started realizing it and figured out how it actually functions. Honestly, for me, that was kind of a fun way to do it, because it almost made it an interesting, like, how do I play this game? And then I realized what it was.
Right.
But I actually think one of the more interesting things that they did with the game is the fact that the Exorcism ability actually eliminates ghosts permanently.
Right. Yeah.
So every once in a while, one of the weapons, when it pops up, it's the little set of wings, and it's the Exorcism. And that when you use that, any ghosts you kill with that, including ones that are not the crown ghost at the time, the main one you're supposed to kill, will never show up again. So it allows you to actually kind of like clear out the field a little bit, so you're not dealing with 50 ghosts at a time. No matter what, you can actually clean some of them out, so that so it's a more manageable sort of playing field. So it's pretty interesting.
So they have the arcade mode, I think is what they call it. If you just play that, you can have other people join in, and you're just working together to kill the ghosts.
Right.
But they've also got the deathmatch version where your goal is actually to kill each other. And in that, the Exorcism ends up being like a really interesting tool, because there were multiple times I was playing with a friend and you had to get to 4 kills to win the entire match. I would get up to 3 kills, so I've got 3 ghosts. Whoever wins gets a ghost, or whoever kills the other person gets a ghost for them. But I got that, so I've got 3 ghosts going around, and then he got the Exorcism and wiped out all my ghosts, and then managed to build up 3 more ghosts and kill me. Kind of levels the field.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to play any of the like same screen stuff, so I wasn't sure how that worked.
And you can actually, in the deathmatch version, you can customize the rules a bunch.
Oh, really?
You can do all this stuff, like you can turn down the gravity.
What?
You can give yourself up to 6 jumps.
I'm gonna have to try some of that with someone.
Which we played a little bit like that, with like basically half gravity and 6 jumps, so we're just like floating around like we're swimming in the air.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Ridiculous. And then you can change, you can change the weapons you can pick. There's definitely a lot to it.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. The way that it kind of works, just the basic gameplay of it is fun, and then the way you unlock the new levels by like earning 50 points or whatever, and then you unlock new weapons by like your accumulated kill total and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
It makes it pretty fun just for unlocking new stuff and everything. I mean,
yeah.
I will say.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like unique and interesting weapons in it too.
So. Yeah, I will say, as far as I made it in my playtime, I think one of the earlier weapons that I unlocked was just like a rocket launcher. That's one of the most useful and easiest ways to accidentally get yourself killed.
Right.
Is that rocket launcher.
Yeah, because that's the thing about it, is they don't just follow through and do exactly what you did. They go and pick up the weapon that you picked up, regardless of what is there at that spot. So if you kill the ghost with a rocket launcher, there's going to be a ghost shooting a rocket launcher.
Yep.
Forever.
Right.
Unless you can exercise that ghost.
Exercise it or start each round by killing it as quickly as possible.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely a very fun game to play. I enjoyed it. I'd love to check out some of the multiplayer stuff. I'll have to do that when I have someone to play same screen stuff with.
Yeah.
It's very much a fun game. It's got a lot going for it.
Yeah, that's Extreme Exorcism.
Great game.
And yeah, it's available on both the PS3 and the PS4. Also available on the PS3, only on the PS3, is Rayman 3 HD. So that one's only available on PS3. We didn't get a chance to play it. So next up, Space Overlords on the PS Vita, which was also available on PS4, which is why we played it.
Yeah, for some reason.
I always hesitate to say bad things about, especially something that's obviously more of an indie game. I know how much work goes into these things. It's not an easy thing to make.
Oh, I know. As hard as I've tried to come up with something positive to say about this game, I can't. The problem is, even if I try to be like, it's low poly stuff. No, it's really bad low poly. Yeah. It's not like it's actually good low poly stuff. If it was good low poly stuff, I would likely be raving about it as much as I could about that part of it and saying, it looks amazing. It doesn't. It looks terrible. Yeah. That's all I can say. It's bad.
I gave up very quickly on it. I was just like, no, I'm done. This is not fun. This is not interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to something else.
So with that, I guess let's move on to something else.
Yeah, so again, also on the PS Vita, there is another title that we didn't get the chance to play, but it's Zero Escape, Zero Time Dilemma. No idea what that game is at all. Didn't look up anything about it, but if it sounds familiar to you, maybe check it out, or if just the name sounds interesting to you.
But the other one of the other titles, Heavy Rain, which it's just the PlayStation 4 version that is available for free right now. This game initially came out on the 3, but the 3 version isn't available through PlayStation Plus. So yeah, this game.
It's the debut title, I guess, for Quantic Dream. If you are familiar with who...
I mean, they kind of got pretty well known just from this one.
Yeah, really. Their second title was actually available just a few months ago. Beyond Two Souls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the free games just a few months ago, and now they've...
Which that one kind of co-stars Willem Dafoe, so that one's worth it. Willem Dafoe is in it.
Yeah,
so.
And then I think it was just last month they released their newest game, Detroit Become Human.
Oh, did they really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just last month, but don't quote me on that because I might be wrong.
Yeah, I've never really followed their stuff. Based on my experience of both of their previous two, I would say they're improving for sure. But I think the main thing that I will say about Heavy Rain, just for starters, is it is so slow.
Yeah, I mean, I played for 30 minutes, and that's how long it took me to get to the opening credits. So
that's how long it took you to put on some pants and kiss your wife. Oh, and I guess maybe play with the kids a little bit. I mean, it takes a half an hour to get into the opening of the game. It's and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it feels very frustrating, and the controls are almost infuriating at first because just to walk around you have to hold down the right trigger or the R2 button, which that's just not how you walk around. And that is something that they fixed in the second game in Beyond Two Souls. You don't have to hold down the trigger to walk anymore in that game. You just walk like any other game. So that's kind of one of the things where I say, it seems like they're learning, they are getting better. So I would be curious to see what their newer game looks like and how it kind of feels compared to the previous ones. What sort of improvements they've maybe made.
In some ways, I kind of like the fact that they just said, okay, here's what people are doing with controls. Nah, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to make up whatever else we want that we think fits right. Like, I
Yeah.
really like it when people try new things with controls and don't just follow what everyone else is doing. But yeah, it isn't the best execution of that.
The thing though is I feel like they still did that with Beyond Two Souls, where like it's kind of like you're using the controller in kind of weird ways and hitting buttons that's one thing I feel like they actually improved upon when they did the second game, is that it still does kind of those different sort of interesting kind of funny ways to use the controller. There's less of the stuff where you're moving the right stick in a way that actually matches the motion that you would actually do in it, though.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think they did right is that you don't have to hold down the right trigger to move. Like, you just use the left stick, just moves the character.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. You move the left stick, the character wanders around, like slowly saunters with arms flailing at the sides, or not flailing, but just kind of dead at the side. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Which actually, I think my favorite thing so far in Heavy Rain is just making the characters walk up and down stairs. Something about the up and down stairs animation to me is just funny.
Yeah. I mean, I did find it really entertaining how you finally get dressed, you go downstairs, and he's like thinking, I should do some gardening or do some work. And then I just ended up like looking at a book, drinking a coffee, playing with the kids' toys. And then suddenly the wife's home and I'm like, oh, she asks if I got any work done. And I'm like, oh no.
Asks if you
I
did
tried.
work. Yeah. I didn't even
I'm like, no, you didn't. You did not try at all.
I didn't even know there was an option to work until she asked the question. Like, I totally even missed the ability to actually do something useful. Like, I was just like, oh, coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, orange juice. But yeah, so it's basically that. Like, the game starts out with just like, oh, I'm just wandering around my house. Oh, now I'm in a mall. Oh, now my kid disappeared. And then some sort of accident and blah, blah, blah. And now it's the start of the game. And guess what? It's actually a murder mystery about a serial killer. So it could be an interesting game, maybe. But, you have to start out by being bored to death by a life even more boring than your own. So actually, maybe if you did some work, that could be fun. He is an architect, right? Isn't that supposed to be like a cool thing to be?
It's what George Costanza always wanted to pretend to be. So that's got to count for something, right?
Right. So yeah, that's the thing. I ended up playing a little bit further, so I actually got to experience some of the playing, some of the stuff where you play as the other characters in the game. Because there's also a detective that you play as and an FBI agent that you play as. So like the FBI agent has like these like crazy fancy high-tech glasses that he puts on, where then he's able to like scan for clues.
Cool.
And then the other guy is like an old detective who's he's an old detective. Overall, I'd say it's got kind of an interesting way to deliver a story like that. There's definitely some frustrating moments just trying to walk around where you like walk into a wall and then go walking off to the side and you're like, no, I was trying to look at a thing that was on the wall right in front of me, but now I'm walking over this way and now I gotta make him walk back over to the thing again. So the controls are a little goofy, and it definitely kind of comes across like feels a little dated when you play it.
It is I think 7 or 8 years old now, so
yeah, that's I was thinking it was something like that. It's more than 5 years old, so and that's again if you're really wanting something that does kind of a similar sort of style of being more interested in telling a story than it is in actually being a game to play, but you want something a little newer, check out the one they just came out with, or check out
Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah, that one. They seem to tell interesting stories.
Yeah.
In kind of a different way from the way that you usually see stories told. I think it's a cool thing that Quantic Dream is doing.
So, yeah, that's about all we've got for Heavy Rain. It's available this month on the PS4. And then also available on PS4 this month is a game called Absolver, which...
Absolver, I've not played very much of it because I only played the little bit that we played last night.
Right.
But so far, I think this is one of the best games that I've played in a while.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, the best game that I've gotten off of PlayStation Plus.
For sure.
As one of their free titles, like, it's...
I mean, as far as that goes, I feel like I can say it's definitely the best game I've gotten on PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live Gold, Steam, Humble stuff, Twitch Prime, any of that. Like, it's got to be the best game I've ever gotten for free from one of these kind of services. Not necessarily free, but, you know, included in one of these services.
Right. Yeah, it's really, really interesting kind of game because it's, I don't know, so far the story hasn't really been explained a whole lot. It seems to be one of those kind of very vague, mystical stories that you don't really ever understand, probably. But it's mostly about this more martial combat, which is done in a really interesting way. It feels really, really well thought out, and it's a lot of fun to actually fight the enemies. And then you can, you know, it's a whole open world, and you can run into other people that are also playing online. That's, you know, we played together. Once we figured out how to make that work.
Well, and as far as that goes, when we were playing, like, once we got to the point where we were able to play with other players, it's technically possible we could have just run into each other.
Yeah, it is.
It does. I feel like it does a couple of things that remind me of Journey. As far as when you are in there playing and you get to the area where then you can join up with friends or just other players. I mean, before we joined together, I went into the room and then it was just like, so-and-so has entered the area. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. And then I see them there. So like you can kind of just run around and run into random people, which, like I said before, that's the kind of thing that Journey did that made it really interesting is you just start playing the game and... oh, now you're just playing with some other person all of a sudden, and you can kind of like work together, or you can just keep going and go your separate ways. Of course, in this one, you can also just start attacking each other and kill each other.
Yeah.
Which was like the first thing that you and I did was start fighting each other.
Yeah. Yeah, but it actually felt like something you could do. With it was actually play PvP as well as PvE, which is pretty cool.
Right.
I mean, you know, we only played against each other like that, so we were both at the same level.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it would feel like if you encountered other people even just a couple levels above you.
Oh, who were like geared up and everything and had that would be kind of interesting.
But yeah, it's got all of these RPG elements of, you know, building up your stats, getting new equipment, getting new moves and attacks. And the way you actually learn new attacks is really interesting, which we figured out after a while.
Yeah, because you
learn them from enemies.
Yeah, like anytime you block an attack from an enemy, or I think even when you just take an attack from an enemy, but I think it might have just been blocking them.
Yeah.
I know for sure it happens when you block an attack from an enemy.
Yeah.
You will actually retain a percentage of how to do that attack or whatever. So like if you take the same attack enough times, you will then know how to do that attack. So you actually, you know, you start with your, I think the way it starts you off, you have, I think like a total of 8 attacks.
I think technically 9 is how you start, because you have at least the way I started with technically 9, because you have the 4 different stances you can go from and the 2 different buttons you attack with.
Right.
And one of the like standard stance was a 1-2 punch.
Okay, so yeah. So it's like 9, because it was kind of the same. Another thing that's interesting is the way that depending on how you chain your attacks together, it will adjust your stance will move to where then your next attack will be a different one. And depending on which type of attack you do from there, it'll adjust. It can change your stance up or keep the stance, which I wasn't quite paying enough attention to how that functioned exactly. But I know there is a specific way that works. Yeah, so it's a really interesting, very complex, but in a really fun and interesting way, like sort of fighter game.
Yeah.
The thing that I really didn't expect that is a big part of why I think this is one of the best games I've seen, though, is the sort of exploration element of it.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the thing I was talking about, how once we got to the area where we were playing together and everything, like once we got into that space, then you can find other, you can just like run into other players at that point, and that feels like Journey. That's the other thing, is like the whole place kind of has this sort of exploration kind of element to it that makes it kind of have that like a similar feeling to that, where you're just kind of in this.
That was something that I thought was really interesting and kind of cool about it, was the fact that it had that sort of, in some ways it kind of reminded me of some of the things I liked about No Man's Sky, which was just the fact that it felt very peaceful and calming to play. Is that just kind of running around and exploring in Absolver feels very calming. It feels very serene, and like just this beautiful landscape and this beautiful scenery, and it's really well designed and rendered, and the style is just really cool. And then you find enemies and fight them, and it gets really intense, and then you go back to the really calm.
And also, this is a really good example of a really well done low poly. Yeah,
definitely. It is a beautiful game. It's a fun game, and we will definitely be playing more.
Oh, absolutely.
And most likely be recording more gameplay of it and posting that as well.
That is one that we have recorded. We did record our initial gameplay of that. We do plan on actually releasing that gameplay. Yeah. And I think we're probably going to continue and play some more and release that as well.
Yeah, there you have it. Those are the free games for the month of July. We did record gameplay of all 4 of the games that we played. That we'll be posting some of that in additional videos. And yeah, what we played for like an hour of Absolver, I think we'll post that up, and definitely be posting more of that.
So if you've enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and we will be back in August with another episode of PvE.